Then he gets to the point to where he says, you know, and you really shouldn't roll your eyes to Black excellence because you're gonna get a lot of flack for that. And I was like, hold on. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Whitney, and today I'm coming at you guys with another juicy story time. Now, I like to tell stories here on my channel so that way I can give you guys advice, I can paint the picture of what may happen to you, and hopefully you guys can avoid that certain situation. There's a lot of toxic people in this world. There's a lot of toxic behaviors in this world, and hopefully we can avoid them in any which way possible. Now, if you guys are a returning subscriber, you guys already know that there's a funny character here on my channel. His name is Travis. Now, if you guys want to learn more about Travis, head over to my playlist. It's called Story Times, and you'll see everything over there basically with stories in general, and you may or may not hear some things about Travis. So if you're interested, as you can see in the title, if you guys are interested in what I am going to talk about today, the story I have to share, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications so you never miss when I post a new video. Alright guys, let's get right on into it. So this story dates back a couple years. I want to say it has to be by now like 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe even, no, definitely wasn't 2 years ago. It was a long time ago. So I'm gonna push us here in this like bracket of when Whitney was in a very toxic relationship. Now, if you guys remember anything from Travis, Travis is the guy that I was involved with for 4 years. He, you know, took my innocence. Well, I'm not gonna say like that. Like, basically we had an encounter where I was no longer innocent. He was my longest relationship, but he also was my most toxic, my most, how do I want to put this? He was the most manipulative and gaslighted the fuck out of me. That's that type of relationship, right? Like, everything that was defined, he was, right? And I also want to make this clear to say that I'm not trying to make anyone find him or be like, oh, you did this and that to Whitney. I'm not trying to say like I'm burned and I forever want to ruin his character. Like, no, that's not what this video is for. Basically, like I said, I like to tell my story so that way you too can avoid whatever problems that I was going through, and so that you cannot go through that same issue. Now, I don't know who this man is now. I don't talk to him, I don't follow him, I don't know anything about him, I don't even know what the fuck he's doing, right? So with that being said, I don't even know if he's the same person. So I'm not trying to paint him in a bad light. I'm just saying back then when I experienced him, he wasn't the greatest of people. And another thing about his character, which was a good side of him, an amazing side, was that he was very big in growth and success and being better than what you were yesterday. That helped me out a lot in kind of framing my mindset with going forward with my career. He had a big part in helping me throughout college. And even though like I went through a lot of toxic things, you know, when people stay in toxic situations, there's something that they're holding on to. At some point in time, they were good to you, they were nice, right? They were good, they were a good person. But that's to say, I'm just simply telling my story. So moving forward, right, like this is a couple years ago, I am sitting in a Books a Million with Travis, and me and Travis are just, you know, chilling, right? I believe this was either after class or a day where we didn't have class, like a weekend or something like that. We were doing a little bit of work, I was studying, and he was checking his emails like constantly. This was a period when Travis had just applied for a scholarship that was big, okay? Tech people, I don't want to hear, STEM people, I don't want to hear nothing from y'all about struggling in college because, well, I mean, the work is very competitive and hard. I'm not taking that away from you, but they had opportunities out the ass. Like, that's all they had was opportunities. And so Travis was trying to go for a scholarship that was like $30,000. He would be moved across the world to some place, well, across the US, and he would you know, he was given a stipend that would help for moving expenses. Basically, like, this is what you get for winning a scholarship. You know, we're going to reward you, but you're also going to get a job at the end of this. So he was set, right? Or he would have been set. And so while we're sitting at this Books a Million, he's constantly checking his email while I'm studying. And then all of a sudden he finds the email from the scholarship and he looks at it, and because he's freaking out because he's anxious about, you know, what he's going to do. And so he found out that he got the scholarship. He's gonna get like at least $30,000 and a job on top of that. And he gets so excited, right? He's like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm moving to Colorado, I'm going to do this, because Colorado was a very nice place for tech people, right? And then he's like, well, what are the steps that I'm going to make? I've never lived in another state by myself. I don't want to be too far away from family. And I'm like, you don't have to be too far away from family. You know, it's close by. You can drive if you want to. It's not that far from where we stay. I was like, and also I will be visiting. There's no problem with me visiting, right? And so we were talking about it, and the topic of me going with him comes up. And he's like, you're gonna come with me? And I was like, I can, I just gotta finish my degree, but like, yeah, let's do it, right? And so we decide that we're gonna move together. He's going to live there, and then eventually when I finish my degree, because my degree was also online, I'm gonna go with him as well. Then at this time, as we're sitting at the table, he's figuring out what he's gonna do. He's so happy. He's like, ooh, and this is what I'm gonna do with the money. I'm probably gonna buy this. I'm probably gonna get a new car. No, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna probably wait until I get my first paycheck and then get a new car. Like, he was so happy. And I was happy for him as well, because this was an amazing opportunity. And during this time, my mom calls, and I pick up the phone and I'm just talking to her. And all of a sudden, right, like, Travis takes the phone out of my hand. And I'm like, Travis, don't tell her about Colorado. Like, don't tell her about Colorado. And then he's like, hi, mom. Like, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like getting all happy and excited. He was like, I got the scholarship, because she knew about it. And she's like, oh, great job, great job. And he was like, yeah, I'm moving here. Like, I'm going to be moving in a couple years. Like, I'm going to be so excited. And guess what? Whitney's coming with me. And I'm like, when he says that, I was like, why would you do that? I was like, I didn't want to kill his mood, but in my heart, I was like, why would you do that? But that's neither here nor there. And then he hands the phone back over to me, and I'm on the phone with my mom, and she was like, why didn't you tell me that you were gonna go? And I was like, you know, it's still kind of up in the air. You know, I really wanted to do that. You know, I just had some things to figure out. And I was like, sorry. You know, I didn't say it like that. I really was like, you know, I wanted to. I told him not to say anything, but he did. And so she was just like, okay. And so we get off the phone, and he's just excited. And of course I'm upset about that, but I don't say anything because I'm not trying to kill his mood. Now, when Travis found out that he got the scholarship, this was during the tail end of our relationship. And I know in your mind you're thinking, but I thought you were going to go with him. I thought you were doing X, Y, and Z. You guys were just so excited and so in love, and you guys have been together for so long. No, like, you saw the title to this video. You know something's coming along. So during this portion of our relationship, this was the tail end of our relationship, right? He found out that he was going to move to Colorado. I was, you know, getting ready for whatever it was that was to come. But during this time period, Travis was very wishy-washy. He was like, you know what, I'm excited that you're coming, but give me a year, because I just want to like feel what it's like to be in a new place by myself. And in my head, I was like, you know what, that's fair. I guess I understand. And I still got school to finish, because, you know, I just started my master's program. So, you know, a year sounds pretty accurate to me. And even when I told my sister about this, she was just kind of like, why would he change up your plans too? But I didn't think nothing about it, because I was like, you know what, it's fair. It's his win. I'm not gonna like hump on the bandwagon and just ride on with the benefits, right? Like, let him have his thing. So first he's like, give me a year. And then like in the next week, he's like, actually, I'm not even too sure if I want you to come. And in my head, I'm like, whoa, like, this is a little bit not 1 year. Like, now because we're in a full-blown relationship, and I'm like, so we're just gonna be long distance for how long? And he's like, well, I kind of want to live in Colorado for at least 3 years, right? Like, I want to buy a house. I want to be able to start a life over there, just, you know, build up my money, build up my career. You know, it seems like it's going to be a very great place to be. And I was like, you know what, that, you know, I see that how that can make sense, but what about me? And during this time was the time that like Travis was doing this thing where he didn't want to break up with me, but he was trying to find ways to get me to break up with him. And eventually it worked, right? Like, he was pushing me away. He was telling me things like, you know, we don't have that natural connection. I want to be able to talk to somebody on the phone and not, you know, be bored, and not, I want to do the stupid things that people do when they're on the phone, and with you, I don't do that. And he was also saying things like, you know, whenever I would come over, or whenever he would come over, he'd be like, you know, I'm bored with you. I don't miss you when you're gone. on. He was very, very like, I'm gonna break this woman down so that way she can finally break up with me. He never really, I don't know if he never really knew what he wanted or just wasn't man enough to tell me what he wanted. Because at the end of the day, obviously, if we're together for 4 years, he cared about my feelings to a certain extent. He just cared about himself more, which is fair, right? Like, sure. But in a relationship, I don't know, a part of me kind of feels like there should be a balance. But even then, it's just kind of like, I feel like you guys get what I'm saying, right? Like, he went from wanting me to come with him to give me some time, which was fair, to don't come at all. And so for about 4 months, he was pushing me away, telling me, hey, like, don't come, you this, I don't feel the need to be around you, the pull isn't there, I'm not in love with you, you know, things are just not how I would want them to be. And there was this one point in time in, like, it was like October, where I was calling my friend and I was like speaking to him, and I was like, you know what, I feel like something is really bad is going to happen. Like, I was talking to my friend who we're just gonna call, I don't know what to call him, I guess we're gonna call him, I don't know, whatever, we don't even need to call him anything, let's just call him Junior. Like, Junior was telling me, you know, like, I'm here for you for anything. And even Junior, he was just getting into a relationship too, and so he was a little preoccupied, so I didn't even go to him with anything because the girl that he was with was freaking crazy. But that's not my story to tell. So Travis and I split up, right? And I can go into that story a different time, right? I ended up having to cut things off with Travis, and there was a way that I did it that can be told in a different story. But basically, I was like, you know what, you don't have to pretend anymore, we don't need to be together. And so me and Travis split up, and Travis just flourished. He just felt so free. He was like this new man, and I was like still wanting to be with him because I was like, you know what, I've been with you for this long, I loved you, I was in love with you, but you know, things just kind of happen. And so fast forward, we get to the point to where me and Travis are in a car together, right? And it took me a long time to realize who he was as a person, because for a while I had this veil over me that was just kind of like, no, like, at first I was making up excuses for him, I was trying to explain things that was like very toxic, and I was trying to make sense of what things were to try to make myself feel better, even though I knew deep down that this person wasn't for me. And also, like, he knew that he wasn't for me, but he all of a sudden felt bold once we weren't together. And so fast forward, we get into this point where I'm talking to him in the car. I'm like, ooh, I don't even want to tell this part. Ugh. Don't beg for a man, guys. Never beg for a man. I was so stupid. But anyways, I was sitting in the car with him, and I was just like, you know what, I know that we're supposed to be together, so just give me 2 years, right? If you ever have to say a sentence like, oh, just give me time, blah blah blah, drop the whole person, because not only are you now being toxic and talking down on yourself, you don't need to be in a relationship if you think you're not worth better. I did not think I could get better. That sounds really bad on that part, but like that's the truth. Like, I had huge attachment issues, and I didn't think I could get better. So I was like, you know what, stay. Like, you're the type of guy that I go for, right? But just because a man is successful doesn't mean that they don't still have toxic attributes, they don't still have toxic traits, and they're not still a narcissist, right? So he was like, we were sitting in the car, and I was like, you know what, give me 2 years, and then, you know, have your little fun, but, you know, come back to me. And he looks at me and he was like, no. And I was like, why? You know, like, we're good together, right? And he was like, no, like, I'm not gonna ever date you again. And I was like, damn. Like, in my head, I'm like, okay, like, let's be a little bit soft here, because you know I'm sensitive, okay? Like, let's like care about my feelings. And so we're sitting in the car, and he was like, I'm never going to date you again. I feel free. I don't want to have this weight on my shoulders of carrying you around anymore. Like, I always felt like I had to drag you to do things. And I was like, motivation comes and goes, what are you talking about, right? And he was like, and the fact that, like, yo, your family doesn't like me, like, I don't want to deal with that. And I was like, well, my family doesn't like you for a given reason, right? And he was like, actually, no, the reason why your family doesn't like me is because they can't see me. And it was at this moment where, just a little, right, like, the veil that was over my eye just kind of got lifted a little, like, not completely, but just kind of like taking it back a little bit, where, like, I was starting, like where right here is just completely dark. Picture a blanket, like a thin sheer blanket over my eye, right? You bring it too close, all of a sudden you see darkness. But if you bring it a little bit further, you can kind of see what's through there, really. You kind of see what's in front of you, like an image of what's in front of you. So that's kind of what happened when he said that, right? And as he kept talking, it just kind of got further and further, right? The veil was starting to peek out like a little bit. And so once he said, you know, the reason why your family don't like me is because they don't see me. They can't see me. And I remember him doing this motion exactly, because he was sitting in the driver's seat, I was sitting in the passenger seat, and he was turned over to me like this, like they can't see me, like that. And that motion I really wanted to take his fist and shove it up his nose. He was like, they can't see me because I'm more than anything that they could ever see. All they know is brokenness. And this is what made me say, yeah, never mind. Like, never mind. Because first of all, yeah, my dad's side is on the poorer side. My mom's side, no. My mom's side is the one that we cared about the most, about how they felt about him, right? My mom's side is mainly the people who I cared about would like the person that I'm with, and they're the ones that didn't like him because he had cheated on me. And so during that whole cheating thing, he was all like, you know, if you acted right, then I wouldn't have cheated. And I told my sister that, and she ended up telling everybody, and so everybody didn't like him, right? When he said that, I was like, no, it's because you did a wrong thing. Like, I'm confused, right? But then he made it clear that, oh, they just can't see them because all they see is brokenness. My mom's side ain't broke. Like, so I was like, so what's the real reason? In my head. But I was just sitting there and I was just kind of like, okay, all right. You know, because as the veil started getting pushed away, I was like, yeah, maybe not. I'm young. I'll find somebody. And so we get out the car, and he didn't want to give me a hug because he didn't want people to think that we were still together. And we saw one person that we knew, but they didn't even see us. And I was just kind of like, can I have a hug goodbye? And he was like, no, like he didn't really want to do it. So I was like, okay, all right. Fast forward, I ended up getting in a relationship, and we're gonna call this person Malcolm, right? Me and Travis split up. Travis starts doing his own thing. I get with Malcolm. We're good. We're two separate people. Perfect. When Malcolm walked into the relationship with me, Travis was not in the picture because I was like, you know what? I need a break from you. I just kind of want to back up a bit, right? And so Travis was like, okay, fine, respect that. You know, maybe hopefully one day we could still be friends. From the very beginning of Travis's whole existence with me, like, my friends and family saw him for who he was, right? They didn't really like him. They didn't like his vibe, right? If it gets to the point to where your sister's boyfriend says that they don't like them, then you have to realize that, hey, something's going on, right? My sister's boyfriend, obviously he wasn't talking to me, he was talking to my sister, but he was like to her that, you know, he's okay, first off, this guy is very intuitive. He's very like a great judge of character. It's weird. And so he was like, listen, like, this man doesn't respect your sister. They met one time. They live in New York, and I didn't live in New York at the time. And when they came to visit, they met Travis. He was like, you know, he's a know-it-all. He's not for you. And so I thought that was very interesting. But, you know, at the time I was like, in one ear, out the other. So fast forward, right? I'm in a new relationship with Malcolm, and Malcolm as well saw Travis for who he was. From the very beginning, Malcolm was just kind of like, yeah, I don't really care about this dude. I'm not, you know, we're just acquaintances, but I see who he is. And Malcolm wasn't the only person who kind of felt that way either. So as we're continuing forward dating, when you date somebody, you start talking about your past relationships. You start, you know, talking about the people who've been in your life. And of course I was telling him about Travis, you know, the things that I've been through, and that kind of fueled Malcolm's fire a little bit. Like, that surefire confirmed his assumptions or his reservations basically about Travis. And so as we continue forward, right, Travis is I start trying to be friends with Travis again, because at this time I'm thinking, you know, you can be friends with your ex. And I didn't want to completely cut him off because I was like, you know, at the end of the day, we did have a history, so let's be friends. But as me and Malcolm are starting to date, well, let me not say like that, because I'm not trying to say that like Travis started doing X, Y, and Z because we were dating, which I don't think that was the case. But in the very beginning of our overall downfall, Travis was beginning to pull away from me as we were, you know, trying to be friends, which I thought was so weird. I thought it was so weird because, you know, at the end of the whole car conversation, we were just like, yeah, we can still be friends. And of course, I thought that that was going to work for some reason. And so Malcolm didn't necessarily like that Travis was around, but he was willing to give it a try. He was willing to give it an opportunity. He didn't trust Travis as far as he could see him, throw him, whatever. He didn't trust that man at all. But he was like, listen, I trust you. I trust your decisions. I just don't want you guys alone, right, like in a certain area, because that just makes me uncomfortable. And I was like, fair, right? So every weekend me and Travis would go boxing, and that was a cool thing, right, until Travis kind of cut it off because one day someone needed his car. I think it was his dad needed his car, and he never asked to hang out again. And as I'm texting Travis, you know, I'm like trying to talk to him, and he doesn't really answer me at all. He kind of ghosts me a little bit, but he's like, he's talking to me and then he would stop, and then he would talk to me and then he would stop. And so at the time I didn't really give it that much of thoughts because I was just kind of like, you know what, I feel Travis pulling away from me. And I was telling Malcolm this. I was like, I feel like he's gonna cut me off eventually. Like, I feel like it's gonna die down, so you probably don't even have anything to worry about. But as that is happening, you know, Malcolm was telling me like things like this don't really like play out that well. Keep in mind also, this is the year that Travis is going to move to Colorado. So because Travis is going to be leaving soon, I'm trying to hang out with him. I'm letting my boyfriend Malcolm know at the time, like, hey, like, this is what I'm going to do. He was like, okay, fine. Like, of course he didn't like it, but eventually he got, well, let me not even say like eventually he got used to it. No, like, he didn't get cool with that at all. He just was trying to get accustomed to it because he knew that's what I wanted. So as I'm trying to hang out with Travis, I would go to my man and be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, right? And then I would come back to him and be like, never mind, because he doesn't, Travis said no, Travis canceled, Travis did X, Y, and Z. And so also at this time, I'm just kind of thinking, you know, well, if our friendship is going to be cut off, maybe I should just start pulling away as well, instead of constantly trying to get him to hang out with me. Because I would text Travis and be like, you know, you're moving soon, let's link up. And he said this one thing to me that made me pull back a lot, like definitely confirmed that like I was not gonna reach out anymore, or I wasn't going to reach out as often as I was anymore. And he was like, Whitney, we don't hang out all the time, we don't talk all the time, like, it's gonna, when I move, it's gonna be like it is now, so we don't need to link up, like, it's not that serious. And in my head I was like, that's kind of a fucked up thing to say to somebody, but it is what it is, right? Like, I guess it's true. Like, you don't come out, right? And you randomly call me like when you're with your new girl, and I'm like it's not like, he called me randomly asking weird things like, don't I have scratches on my face, like stupid things like that. And I was like, you know, like, all right, fine, then I guess we don't need to link up. And he was trying to set up this big event where we could meet his girl, but then it ended up falling through. And I was just kind of like, you know what, if you're not gonna put in the effort for this friendship, then I guess I'm just gonna back up, right? Like, it's causing problems for me, my man isn't liking it, so you know what, if you don't want it, I don't want it. So I started pulling away as well. Now, I don't know what prompted Travis to do this, but as soon as I stopped trying to reach out or being active in being his friend, or just being an overall, like, because we asked to be friends with each other and doing my part, once that stopped, all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, his spidey senses went off, started tingling, bitch, I don't fucking know. But Travis started to contact me more. Once I was just kind of like, you know what, okay, I guess he realized what he said was messed up and was like, never mind, let me try. I don't know what went on, but it went from no contact to a little bit of contact to, Whitney, like, we don't even do anything, we don't need to link up, to, oh, now I'm gonna hit you up to do everything every fucking second, right? My thing was that I didn't respect that at all. I was like, okay, now you're calling excessively, now you're texting me a lot, you know my man isn't comfortable with that. Like, at least the least you can do is respect my boundaries. And there was a few things that happened before this that I'm gonna tell you guys later eventually, you know, if you want it, leave it down in the comments below. But overall, it got to the point to where I was just kind of like, I'm not reaching out anymore. Okay, like, I don't know when he's leaving. Maybe he'll tell me when he does. If he doesn't, so be it. Like, I was at the point to where I was just done, because it was causing a lot of problems. Like, me and my man were upset about it. We weren't arguing about it. We were like, listen, like, there was a time where I was very upset and emotional about what was going on, and he was like, listen, you're sitting here in my room upset about a nigga who doesn't care about you, who's trying to force his agenda on you. He knows how to get under your skin. He knows what to say to you. He's known you all this time and dated you, damn near knows you better than I know you, and here you are in my room. He's a distance, not gonna come to see if you're okay. Like, he's doing this because he knows how to get you to do what he wants. And I'm looking at Malcolm like, you know what, you're absolutely correct. You're not saying anything different than what all of the rest of my friends were saying. My friends and family were telling me this for eons. I was like, I gotta cut it off. I'm done. So for a couple months, me and Travis have no contact until it becomes the last week of summer, something like that. And I get a phone call, right? At this time, Malcolm is in school, and he goes to school in Nashville, right? So Malcolm hasn't moved over to his school yet, but I know that Nashville is where he's going to reside. We're getting used to it because our relationship is going to be, even though it started off as a long distance relationship, it's going to be an even longer distance relationship. So I get a call from Nashville, and I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe he put my name on something, right? Like, I'm thinking like it's something Malcolm related because it's a Nashville number, and I ain't got no business in Nashville, right? Like, what am I doing in Nashville? So I pick up the phone and I say, hello? And a woman answers. She goes, hey, Whitney, we're gonna call her, I wrote down Maya. It's Maya. And I was like, Maya? Now, I don't freeze. I don't even get upset. I just breathe out like a sigh of frustration.
Because this isn't the first time she's calling me.
This is obviously something to do with Travis. Maya is Travis's girlfriend. So Travis's girlfriend, Maya, calls me and she's like, hey, Whitney, I just wanted to talk to you for a little bit. And I was like, is he dead? Like, what happened? Like, making a joke, you know, because that's just what I do when I get uncomfortable. And so she was like, no, you know, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit for the things that's been going on. And I was like, okay. And so she's like, you know, we all know that Travis is leaving this weekend. And I cut her off, right? I say, no, I don't. I didn't know that. And keep in mind, right, this is the week that Travis is leaving. I think it's Tuesday and he's leaving like a Thursday, I think. Oh no, I think it was like a Wednesday and he's leaving the Saturday, because I think it was a weekend that he was leaving. And I was like, no, I don't. And she kind of pauses for a little bit. She's like, oh, well, Travis is leaving to Colorado on Saturday. And, you know, I just wanted to call because I wanted to reach out because I know you guys have, you know, a long lasting relationship. You know, your friendship was very important to him, and I don't want your guys' pride to get in the way. And I was like, you know, this is interesting. She was like, so I just wanted to reach out to you to hopefully get you to reach out to him. And I'm sitting there like, what? Like, my whole demeanor was like, what is going on? Like, why is this a thing? And so my immediate reaction was, no, I'm not going to do that. And I said it just like that because I was so confused, so baffled at the audacity. Like, when Maya called me on this, like, this reason for why she called me, I 1000% respect it, because not only is it not your place, nor is it basically it's not her place to say anything. She went out of her way to try to mend a friendship that was once important to both parties. And I feel like not only would I have done the same thing, I also feel like it was what should have been done on Travis's end. Like, I respected that a lot from her, because it was like, you know, let's not end this friendship off of pride. And so I hang up on the phone with her because immediately I'm like, no. And she had nothing else to say after that, because I said, why? I'm not going to do that. And so we get off the phone, and immediately I call her back because I'm like, wait a fucking second. I was like, did he put you up to do this? And she was like, no, he didn't do this. He actually doesn't know that I'm doing this. So I would greatly appreciate it if you didn't tell him. And I was like, well, it's neither here nor there whether or not I tell him, but you understand what's going on, right? Like, you understood. I feel like you get where I'm coming from, what happened. And she was like, you know, yeah, I kind of understand. You know, of course, I see both sides. You guys have been friends for a while. Let's not let this relationship end off of pride. You guys, you know, really important to each other. And I was like, did he tell you what he said to my boyfriend? And she was like, no, I don't know what, you know, I don't know what went on with that call. Of course, he told me a little bit here and there, but it was just very, very general. It was a very unnecessary call. And, you know, if you guys want to know that, you know, put it down in the comments below. But anyways, continuing forward, I was like, well, he should have told you. Travis and Malcolm had a phone conversation, and Travis told Malcolm, you know, I don't care either way if we're friends. Either way, I'm going to be good. And in my head, I was like, when Malcolm told me that he said that, it really hurt my feelings. Because I'm like, you're causing all this rift, causing all these problems, but you don't care. Why are you here? Like, why is this going on? And when I told her that, she was like, you know, I've been talking to Travis all the time about how he articulates himself and how he presents his feelings, because we all know that, you know, he's not going to present his feelings. He's going to say something else even though he feels something completely different. Travis is a Sagittarius. She didn't say that, but I'm letting y'all know he's a Sagittarius, which is why I don't date Sagittarius men anymore. Like, I'm not cutting any of y'all out, but I'm just letting you know, like, this is why y'all got a bad rap. But she was like, you know, I tell him all the time that there's a way to speak, and like, there's a disconnect here. Like, you're being a dick. Like, why do you have to be a dick? Why do you have to say things like that? And, you know, we're kind of talking on the phone for a little bit, like I think the most, it was like 7 to 10 minutes. I don't even think it was that long, but it was a little bit of a lengthy conversation for an ex-girlfriend and a current girlfriend to be talking on the phone. And I was like to her, you know, I really respect you doing this, but this is his job. This is something that he should be doing to me, because not only did I not know that he was leaving, it's not like he told me and I forgot. He never disclosed to me that this was happening. He would have left if you didn't say anything. Or he's still leaving off of the presumption that he's not going to tell me, and like, he's just going to leave. I was like, this is disrespectful. The ball is in his court. It's not my job to do his job for him, right? And she's over here being like, you know, like, you know that that's not how he feels. You know, he really genuinely cares about you. And I'm like, that's fine and dandy, but guess what? I'm not Dora in this bitch. I'm not gonna go out here and explore this bitch's feelings. Like, he needs to say what he means and mean what he says. We're too old for this. I was like, there's a lot of things that I can understand how you would want to hide your feelings, but if he knows me as well as he says he does, if this friendship is as important as he says it is, and as you say it is to him, then you just gotta be a man about yours. I was like, I'm not gonna reach out. I'm not gonna say anything, because now this further says that I shouldn't say anything, because now I feel disrespected. And she was like, okay, well, I just don't want anybody's pride to get in the way, like trying to tell me that like my pride is getting in the way. And I was like, no, at this point it's not my pride. Like, at this point I will be doing this man's job for him, and that's not okay. So we get off the phone, and of course I tell my man, I tell my girls, I tell my sister. I was like, listen to this shit, right? And immediately afterwards, I don't block this girl's number. And I forgot, because I was just like, yo, let me tell y'all what just went down, because this is really funny. It's not like I purposely didn't block her number and like I wanted to leave the line open. I really and genuinely forgot, because in my mind I was like, let me just, this is more than once that she called me, and I don't want this to be a continuous thing. So I continue forward, right? Like, I just forget to do that, and my friends are like, what the hell is wrong with this girl? What is wrong with this guy? Like, why are they built like this? And I was like, you know what, guys, I respect her doing this, but at the same time, it's just like, when you know your man isn't, like, you found out today that he never told me. Now there's just something that you need to be doing behind the scenes that just doesn't involve me. Continuing forward, right? It gets to the end of the week. It gets to like the day before he leaves, and I get a text message from, you guessed it, Maya. I get a text message from Maya saying like, hey, we're at this restaurant, come through. Like, we're eating, I would really love it if you came through. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I live 40 minutes away from where you guys are. Like, by the time I get there, you're probably not going to still be there. Second of all, it is not your place. If he wanted me there, he would have brought me there. He would have told me. Things would have went down to where you did not need to have to text me. My response to her was like, you're too kind, something like that, like, LOL, you're too kind. Basically, everyone is telling me, you know, just let this be it, because this is too much drama that is so unnecessary. You just don't need to be in it. And so I'm on board with this. I'm basically like, you know what, I'm just not gonna say anything. And then it gets closer, right, to the night, because this is the same day, and I'm like, you know what, no, I'm actually really hurt about this. Then I started getting in my feelings, and I was like, you know what, no, I'm gonna tell him a little bit about himself, right? But I'm gonna say it respectfully, because I just need to put this out there so that way things could be clear, because I wanted things to be absolutely 1000% clear, which at this point I'm like, didn't really need to have to be, but here we are, right? I'm not gonna go to the dinner. I'm gonna let him know what's going on. So the reason why I wanted to send him a text of, or a text or email, something like that, of everything of how I felt, is because a couple months prior, he felt the need to send me a whole dissertation of how he felt like how he was demoting me from family to friend, and how he was no longer gonna, you know, watch out for me. He was like, oh, but be a good role model for your sister. Like, he was saying, he was going off. And so I was like, you know what, he felt comfortable enough to say this, so I'm just gonna tell him why he's no longer in my life. And it wasn't like a petty thing, it wasn't like I'm being spiteful thing. Like, I let my friends read it. I was like, does this come off as being like incredibly indignant? And they were like, no, like, I understand why you want to do it, it's not necessary, but at the same time we get it. And so I sent him a little paragraph about how I feel. I'm like, first off, how we broke up, I did that purposely because of X, Y, and Z. Second off, your girl has been hitting me up, and that needs to, I don't want it anymore. Please cease and desist. Like, I don't even know if I said that correctly, but I was just kind of like, you know what, let's just cut that out, block my number. This is what she was coming for. And also, I just want to let you know that you're not going to see me around anymore. I feel like you were a chapter. I just want this to continue on, right? Like, I just want to continue on in my life with no more problems. And a lot of the times whenever you confronted Travis, he would go off on this thing of like basically being aloof with how things were going. Like, oh, he didn't care, oh, he could care less. Like, that was a repeating factor of him. And so I mentioned in my email, like, you know, don't even mention anything about growth and success and Black excellence. And I was like, because that's not what we're talking about right now. And in the text, right, keep in mind with me, guys, in the text I was like, don't even say anything about, you know, oh, I got my master's, oh, Black excellence. And I said, you know, the asterisk, rolls eyes, asterisk, and I kept going off. I was like, that's not what we're talking about, right? A lot of the times whenever Travis, like I said, you confronted him, he would be like, oh, I don't care, I just got my bachelor's, I just got my master's, I just bought a house, I got $30,000 in the bank account, like, I don't care what's going on. Like, he would constantly say shit like that, and we'd be like, that didn't even, like, you hitting at something that's completely irrelevant. Just because you got a master's doesn't mean you're not being narcissistic, bro. Like, you're causing a problem, you're being toxic. Let's talk about the problem, let's talk about the toxicity. Like, that's what we're here for. He would constantly be like that. So my point was to nip it in the butt just in case he responded. So he did respond. He sent an email, he tried calling me, but this was in the process as me blocking him. So I declined his email, I declined his phone call, and I was like, not talking. And I was also, you know, going to block him on email. But then I read his email. He sent me a Snapchat being like, I'm sorry, I love you, bye. And then he called me. I don't think he left a voicemail. He sent a text, and then he sent an email paragraph. And this was my mistake. I read the email and I was like, I need to speak to him. Because in his email, he was saying things like, oh, Malcolm is lying. I don't know why you would think Malcolm would say that I said that, because Malcolm said that he could care less, like he would be good regardless. Because if you guys remember, Malcolm and Travis had a phone call conversation, and Travis was telling me what happened and Malcolm told me everything that happened. In the email, Travis was again for another time talking bad on Malcolm, because this wasn't a repetitive thing, but if you confronted him, like I said, he would go off. He wouldn't talk about the problem. He would say, oh, I'm doing better. That was his thing. He was like, I'm doing great in life, so there's nothing that can hurt me. But when you're hurting other people, they're going to come at you. Like, they're going to. If you're hurting other people, there's going to be someone to put you in your place eventually. The thing about it too is that Malcolm was that one. Like, Malcolm, he constantly would say things about Malcolm and be like, oh, that's just his insecurities and you're feeding into his insecurities. And Malcolm wasn't with it. Listen, Malcolm was the one and the two. If there's a fight that I wish would never happen, but would love to see, that's a fight that I would have loved to see but wish never happened. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, I'm condoning it, because at the end of the day that would have been horrible. I never wanted it, but I'm not gonna hold you. Like, it's a fight that I would have wanted to have seen but would have wished never happened. Y'all get what I'm saying? So not only was he constantly being this person of bringing people down, I just felt the need to say something. Now, my sister was trying to stop me from saying something to him. Malcolm was trying to stop me from saying something to him. He was like, listen, if you call him, he's going to win. He knows, again, what to say to you to get you to respond. That's what people do. When they're toxic and they no longer have your attention, that's their number one goal, to get your attention. And I knew Malcolm was right. I knew Malcolm was spitting the shade. Like, I knew it in my heart of hearts. I should not call this man. But guess what I did the next day? I called him. And here we are with this conversation. So I call him, right? I call Travis. I tell him everything. I speak to him. I'm like, listen, this is what went down. This is what your girl did. He was like, yeah, I caught her texting you at the dinner last night. He was like, and every time the door opened, I just kept breaking my neck to see who would come in. That was your chance to show up and show out. You know that I really felt a lot for you, even if things like that happen, even if I did say that, you know how it is. And I said to him too, I was like, since when did I become Dora? Like, I'm not the one to come out here and explore people's feelings. Like, I'm not here on a scavenger hunt. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. We're too grown. And so he, kept saying, like, you should have came to me and verified whether or not I said that. And I was like, why would I come to you when at this point you are everything that everybody has ever said about you from day one? I was like, I'm not gonna talk to you. Like I don't want to talk to you. I don't trust anything that comes out of your mouth. At this point, I think that this is your game. You're wanting to get people to think of you highly. You want people's attention because that's what makes you feel good. He was going off on me as well. And I want to make this clear. Like, we weren't yelling at each other. It was a very firm talk that you do when you're talking to a child. But on both ends. And we were telling each other off. At first it wasn't respectful, but the tone was respectful. Does that make sense? Like, we were telling each other off, going back and forth. I was like, this whole situation could have been avoided if you just stayed in your lane. Like, you didn't have to do what you did, and you and I both know that you were trying to cut me off from the very beginning. And he was like, oh, you can't prove that, you don't know what's been going on. I was just having fun because I was in a new relationship. He was like, and then you got in a new relationship and stopped texting me. I noticed that you started being drier. I was like, I stopped because I was tired of trying to get you to hang out. Like, you basically was like, oh, I'm not gonna hang out because we don't even hang out like that. We don't need to see each other before you leave, which was clear as day, as I didn't even find out you were leaving until your girl told me. Like, what's up with that? And he was like, she does really weird things, like she does stupid things, and it's no hate on her or anything like that. That's just how we talk. But she's just a good person. She just wanted to do that. And I was like, yeah, she was woman enough to come and talk to me, but you didn't want to do that, right? And he was like, well, the ball was in your court. The ball was in your court. I'm like, how was the ball in my court? How was it me? How was I supposed to know that you were leaving? And I constantly asked you, what's going on, and you didn't tell me. He was like, well, my friends changed around their schedule to come meet up with me. I was like, I changed my schedule so many times to meet up with you. Not only did you cancel on me a couple times, but you also said, hey, we don't even hang out like that, so who cares? It's not me. it was you. And so we're both going through our emails, like tacking things like, this is what you said and this is why you're wrong, this is what you said and this is why you're wrong. The whole phone conversation was just toxic. And then he gets to the point to where he says, you know, and you really shouldn't roll your eyes to Black excellence, because you're gonna get a lot of flack for that. And I was like, hold on. Well, don't even do that. Don't do that, because you know exactly what I said. You know exactly what I meant by that. And if someone just saw that line and with no context, they would think that I was rolling my eyes and turning my nose up to Black excellence. I was like, don't try to make it come out that I don't like Black excellence, that I'm not an advocate for it. I'm not here trying to be excellent myself. Like, don't do that, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whenever someone confronts you, you want to talk about everything else that's not relevant. What I'm talking about is your narcissistic behavior. This is the moment that Travis takes a minute and he starts laughing. Like, he immediately starts giggling as if I said the funniest thing in the world. And I stopped for a second because I'm like, okay, maybe he's talking to somebody else. Because a lot of the times when we used to talk on the phone, you know, in a relationship and stuff like that, he would do this thing where he would always have multiple conversations with different people. Like, if someone came around and saying hi to him, he would tune me out and start talking to other people and start laughing, right? And so that's what I thought was going on here. Like, a split second, I was like, I know this nigga is not having a different conversation with somebody else. But then he says this, and it just stops my whole world. He starts laughing like a buffoon, not like a giggle, not like a... He starts laughing his ass off, and he says, I'm not listening to a thing you say anymore. I was like, wait. He keeps going. He was like, I'm not listening to a thing you said. That ain't even a word. And I was like, in my head, I'm paused for, I was like, wait a damn minute. Wait a damn. Like, I dad was so confused for a minute. I was like, I know he did not just say that. And he's, at this time, the whole time, I'm not even listening to anything he said after that, because I was baffled. I cannot pinky promise swear to everyone and their mamas, yo. Like, I could not believe what I just heard. I was baffled. He said, I'm not listening to a thing you say anymore. That isn't even a word. And I'm just, he's, okay, so he keeps going on and he starts saying, like, you know, this is what you do. You adapt to others. You don't have goals of your own. You adapt to other people's goals. You don't have a mind of your own. You're not going to be successful doing that way. And he's going in on my ass, right? And I'm just letting him at this point, because I am still stuck on the fact that narcissistic isn't a word. I was like, you know what, Whitney? You shouldn't have called. I was like, you know what? There was a lot of battles that I won. A lot of battles. But this one, I did not. You know, and since it's the telling, maybe I lost the war. You know, I was literally contemplating everything. I was like, maybe I need to start listening to people that try to give me advice. Like, maybe this just wasn't for me. Maybe they had a good point, because... Alright, so when he's done going off, because he takes a little second to go off on me, I'm like, okay, well, listen, these last 4 years were, you know, up and down, of course, and I really appreciate everything that you've done and been there for me. You know, I loved everything that you've done for me. I have love for you, but, you know, this chapter is closing. I wish you the best in life, and I hope you continue being successful. And he says the same thing back. He was like, you know what? Yeah, love you. Have a great life. Bye. And we hang up. I call my man at the time and I say, Malcolm. So I called him, and Malcolm was pissed. He was like, I told you not to do that. And I say, you know, like, he told me narcissistic wasn't a word. And I tell my friends, I was like, yeah, that was one battle I did not have to. This is why I tell everybody to pick and choose their battles. So as we continue forward too, I tell my sister, and she was just like, only a narcissist will say that narcissistic isn't a word. Like, it just is what it is, bitch. Like, at this point, maybe I won the actual war, because at least I know that narcissistic is a word. At least I know that there's certain things in life that just have to be true. Like the dictionary, for example. There's just certain things that just have to be true. And so after that day, I never spoken to Travis. I've never talked to him again. I blocked him on everything. I think I blocked him on everything. I blocked his phone number, like no calls. I don't even see, like I can't see him at all. And I just continued through life with this experience because it was the most baffling, just the overall audacity of you're trying to bring me down and here you are. So that's the story of why today, for the rest of our lives, guys, narcissistic isn't a word, and we're just going to continue on this channel because narcissistic isn't a word. But I make jokes about it, but overall, this toxic situation, I know that this is going to be a long video. Overall, this toxic situation is something that I don't want anybody to get into. Be smart. Listen to people who actually really care about you. Listen to the people who, if everybody in your life doesn't like them, like a good majority of people don't like the person that you're with, it's probably because there's actually something wrong with them, okay? Like it's probably because there's something over here that everybody is seeing. He had a continuous thing that everybody felt. Everybody felt that he was an asshole, he was a know-it-all, and there was something about him that people didn't like. And I've always heard that. And I'm like, I wonder what it is about him that people don't like. Like, I wonder what it is. At the end of the day, not only did this situation teach me that I really need to get better at picking and choosing my battles, no response is a response itself. Being an adult is something that I think that I pride myself on now, because at the end of the day, I don't want to say not only do I have my pride, but not everything deserves your attention. That's what I wanted to tell you guys today. That's what I wanted to talk about with you all today because, hey, narcissistic isn't a word. So let's go on continuing forward, debunking that theory, and let's avoid the toxic people as much as we can, because I don't want you guys getting through all of that, okay? I don't want any of my supporters or just anybody in the world to go through that at all. So again, thank you guys for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.